paragliding in Morocco. This place is called Lake Zira. There's a big hole right underneath me. Cheers! Yeah, that was a short summary of this 2 weeks trip to Morocco. I ended up flying a bit, but most of the time I spent in the water trying to learn how to surf, which worked pretty good in the end. You can see it here. And now I'm going back home and I'm gonna tell you another story from 2012. Okay, but first I really want to thank you for all the comments, all the interaction to my last video, all the thumbs up. That's really cool to see. I love to do those videos, but they're really a lot of work and this really helps for motivation. But now back to the story from 2012. After successfully finishing the Red Bull X Alps in 2011 on the 3rd place, I was totally ready for a next big adventure. So I could really make one of my really biggest dreams come true. Or actually, it was even 3 dreams that I could make come true in just one project. I remember spending lots of evenings in front of my computer watching clips like the Birdman of the Karakoram with John Silvester when he is flying over those huge, incredible 6,000 meter peaks and saying things like, "Oh, this place looks top landable," and I was thinking, wow, that's the coolest thing ever. And it kind of became one of my biggest dreams in those years when I was still a beginner pilot. Another dream I always had was to climb a really high mountain, like a 7,000 meter plus peak, and maybe fly from the top of that. Of course, the 3rd big dream every traveler has is to once in a lifetime go along the Karakoram Highway and from Pakistan to China or the other way around. So I came up with a project idea that would combine all those 3 dreams in just one journey. And at the same time, it would answer the question, which is what is actually more rewarding, to take off low and then go really high up by the aid of thermals, or is it just better to climb a really high mountain slowly and out of your own strength? The idea was simple. I wanted to start a journey in Islamabad, Pakistan, and then just travel north along the whole Karakoram Highway to the Hunza Valley, stay there for a couple of days, go paragliding, try to fly really high, then go across the border to China, and then go on to the father of the icebergs, the Muztagh Ata, which is 7,500 meters high, and climb that mountain in China. So the first thing I needed was a really cool team. The first guy I asked was Philip Jagla, who I got to know in India in 2011, and he actually took part in the X Alps in 2009 already. And then the second guy I asked was an old friend from Graz, Matthias Aberer, who should come along to do the filming. So on the 3rd of June 2012 we started our trip. And it took us 5 days to finally reach Hunza, our first stop. Traveling along the Karakoram Highway is really not always easy. We had at least 2 flat tires as far as I remember now, and police stops and police checks are just a standard thing that you have almost every hour. And we were lucky to actually arrive in Hunza with a couple of really cool other pilots already there. I always wanted to meet people like Brad Sanders, who flew almost at 8,000 meters years ago in Pakistan, and it was really cool to listen to what they had to say about the flying in Pakistan.
My name is Oriol and I'm from Spain.
Hi, my name is Robert Vandenham and I live in New Zealand.
I'm Julian Robinson from Scotland.
My name is Gray Hamilton and I'm from New Zealand.
My name is Brad Sander. I'm from America, the US.
There's hardly any words that can describe the beauty of the landscape.
It's the scale of the mountains is something different.
The scenery that you see, and then the travel experience, the people and the history here, it's been beyond anything else I've done.
Big mountains, super high cloud base.
It seems like you're flying for hours and the mountain never gets any closer.
I get around 6,500 meters.
The feelings you get while you're flying along those massive walls and beautiful glaciers.
Close to some really beautiful glaciers and rock faces.
It is fantastic to share that with a few other pilots.
Coming to Pakistan and flying in Pakistan is a different level than any other place that I've been.
After a couple of days of flying in the Hunza Valley, it was clear that one big mountain was like a magnet to us. Rakaposhi is a 7,700 meter high monster that is on the south end of the Hunza Valley, and the only thing we really wanted to do is fly as close as possible to the big northwest face all the time. In the end, we had a couple of really good flights there. The highest altitude I reached was just above 6,000 meters, which is not incredibly high for that area. And it's really strange because even at 6,000 meters, you feel like you're not really high at all over there because the mountains are just way higher. The thermals there were generally really strong, but not turbulent at all. So I remember the flying there as a real pleasure. Very soon it was time to move on towards north, towards China, towards Muztagh Ata. When we finally crossed over the Kunjara Pass, which is at 4,700 meters, the highest point of the Karakoram Highway, into China, we pretty soon saw Muztagh Ata for the first time. And although we saw it from 4,000 meters, it was still a huge mountain and it was really impressive. At that time I really didn't know what to expect. The highest mountain I climbed until then was Iztaccíhuatl in Mexico, which is about, I think, 5,200 meters high. I was really a little bit shy, and I think that also didn't let me get my full potential on this mountain in the next 2 weeks that we spent there. First of all, I really had to get used to the life in a base camp. The Muztagh Ata base camp is at 4,500 meters. We didn't spend a lot of time acclimatizing to the base camp altitude because we spent quite a lot of time the days before already quite high. But life in a base camp is kind of strange, and it's not really what I really like, because you just basically hang out and wait until your body is acclimatized to the altitude. We didn't have anybody to help us carry our stuff up to the camp. And when we carried all that stuff to Camp 1, which is at 5,400 meters, we all really had big trouble. First of all, the gear was really heavy and we were not used to climbing up that high yet. When we arrived at Camp 1, we basically just set up camp and tried to get down as fast as possible. I remember that my headache was really bad. On the way down, the weather got worse. There were thunderstorms, clouds popping up. I felt so sick that I even had to vomit. We took a day of rest before going up again. We went to Camp 1 one more time and spent one night there. The next day we wanted to climb to Camp 2, but the weather wasn't really good, so we went back to Camp 1. After that we went to Camp 2, which is at 6,200 meters, spent the night there for an even better acclimatization, and then went all the way back down to the base camp.
Look. 6-1. 3-4. 3-4.
Now we felt quite positive to be able to climb all the way to the summit and the next push that we wanted to do. And that now was a really good experience about the capabilities of my own body. Up to the altitude of Camp 2, I almost didn't feel anything at all about the altitude. Next day, when we climbed to Camp 3, my body was really bad again and I felt the altitude really bad. We spent the night there and it was a really tough night because first of all there was no other team on the mountain, so we were all alone up there in that tent. Secondly, it was snowing all night, and that's really a very strange feeling when you're in that tent and you hear the snow falling all over the night. Next day everything was pretty good again, the weather was fine. There was this fresh snow though, which made hiking up quite a bit harder than we were used to. We started hiking and all those thunderstorm clouds that usually popped up again. I don't know, I didn't really feel comfortable about going on, and I really wanted to fly down with my glider, so I decided at just around 7,000 meters that I really wanted to go down now. I took off, flew down back to Camp 1, didn't fly down all the way to the base camp because paragliding is actually not allowed in that area of China. So I didn't want to get in trouble, I didn't want to get in a jail again. So I landed in Camp 1, took down a tent to the base camp for the other guys. Looking at it afterwards, it was a really good decision because the other two guys, Philip and Matthias, went on for just 100 meters more from where I took off. They got totally clouded in, they were in a real whiteout. They had only one GPS, and although they were really close to each other, they couldn't see each other anymore. It was really kind of a tricky situation for both of them. In the end, they made it down safely, which was really good. I didn't reach the summit, but I was still very happy. I climbed all the way up to 7,000 meters, took off with my glider there, and that was totally an experience I will never forget in my life. We went on to Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan. We still had some time left before going home, so we camped at that local low takeoff there, just close to the city, and we had a really good time there with the locals who came every day to bring vodka and meat. That's the only thing we had for a week, I think. It was a very good time that we had there. We've been flying every day, and it was also a very good chance to think about the past 5 weeks and what happened and what actually was the answer to that initial question of what is better, to take off low with a paraglider and climb up with thermals, or to hike all the way up to a high mountain. For me, the answer is very simple. There is no better and worse. It's like the playground is the same, but you do a totally different thing. I was really very happy that I could experience both of those approaches in just one really cool project there. Thanks a lot for watching. If you liked that video, keep on sharing, subscribing, liking, commenting to it. I really like to know what you think. And the next video is already in the processing here. It's not gonna take long until it's ready. And until then, enjoy the ride into the new year, and I see you soon.